Josephus definitely wrote about Jesus, round 2. So I recently made a video responding to a comment that said that Stylometry proves that Josephus did not write about Jesus. Now that is complete and utter nonsense. Now they ended up responding to that video, and for whatever reason I can't actually make a video reply there, but I'm going to do it here anyways. Now, one of the things about Mythicists is that they simply haven't read Josephus. They don't understand Josephus, and there's a number of ways that we can actually tell this. So, if someone ever mentions the flow within Josephus, you know that they've probably never actually read Josephus. Now, the reason for that is because Josephus writes in a patchwork narrative. So you have one story followed by another story, and they don't actually flow together. They're independent stories. Now, another good way to actually determine if someone has read Josephus or understands him is how they actually cite his work. So if someone tells you that in Book 18, Chapter 64, Josephus says something, you know that they are spouting nonsense, that they have no idea what they're talking about. The reason for that is because when you look at Book 18, it only goes up to Chapter 20. So what is this 64? Well, that's Section 64 within Book 18. This comes into play because the person who responded to me said that chapter 64 does not actually have anything to do with chapter 65. And that's true. Well, those aren't even chapters, they're sections. But it's true that section 64 doesn't have anything to do with section 65. And that's because we're looking at a patchwork narrative. Section 64 is about Jesus. The next section, 65, is about a whole new story. That's how Josephus writes. Now, the last thing that this individual talked about is about stylometry, and it just shows that they have no idea about how stylometry works. You can't use a section within Josephus and compare it to another section using computer models. It's simply not going to work. Stylometry doesn't work that way. Now, the bigger problem is if you actually compare Josephus to Eusebius, what you will find is that Eusebius uses a lot of the same phrases that Josephus does. Why is that? Well, because Eusebius is really utilizing the Book of Antiquities. He's utilizing Josephus in really high regard. So Eusebius is not only copying what Josephus says, but some of those phrases become stuck with Eusebius. Now, this is only after the fact. How do we know this? Because we can look at his earlier works and see that these phrases don't actually appear until after he quotes them in Josephus. Now, the biggest thing here is that if you're going to talk about Josephus, you need to actually read his works. You need to understand how history works. If you can't do that bare minimum, then you should not be talking about that subject.